Hey, what's up, Ink fam? Welcome back to Sessions. Today we're going to do something a little bit different today. I know that nowadays the culture is to go online to see what information you can find on how to learn to tattoos, seeing tutorials, and seeing if you can get any information easier at anything that's going to be easy access for you, right? And I totally get that culture. I'm gonna still recommend that the best way to learn is for you to find a shop, find an artist that you want to work with, and do a true apprenticeship. But of course, since we can't get past the fact that we have all this information and all these videos on our phones, I'm gonna go through some TikTok videos that I found to see if I recommend what they're explaining. I have now about 12 years under my belt, and we're just gonna check and see if these resonate, if they make sense, if it's something that I would recommend. All right, guys, I'm gonna pop them up right here. First one is from Emo Kingpin Tattoo. Let's check this one out.
So you're ready to tattoo? Let's break it down, starting with the line work. Begin at the bottom corner and work upwards. This prevents accidentally wiping off the stencil.
Yes, this is correct. It's going to change a little bit different depending on if you're left-handed or right-handed, but you do want to work from bottom to top. And if any of you guys that have done it for a while that started off from top to bottom, you notice right away that your palms started bleeding and sweating some of the stencil. Trust me, you're going to run into a lot of issues if you don't do it this way. So this is good.
Also apply a thin layer of tattoo lubricant. I use Vaseline for fake skins. This helps keep your canvas clean and helps the needle glide into the skin.
Again, perfect, very well said. That's exactly what you use the ointment for. It makes it a little bit easier to tattoo, makes it soothing for the client, and makes it easier for the needle to glide into the skin and all that.
Pull a line, I recommend dabbing, not wiping. This way you can keep the canvas clean without washing or rubbing off the stencil. For these lines, I used a 9-round liner from
Again, perfect. That's exactly what you want. You want to make sure that you're dabbing. And then one thing that helps me clean the tattoo without using any liquid, because the moment you start using the liquid, whether it's green soap or a cast-out soap that I like to use, it starts to wipe away the stencil. So what you could do is just use a good amount of ointment and start rubbing it into the area that has any sort of ink stains, and then you can wipe that away with your napkin.
Bronc and ran 8 volts. I should note that the dabbing technique is specifically for lining. When I'm shading, I use a paper towel with green soap on it to wipe away the excess ink. Before finishing, make sure your line work is flawless.
And usually that's because by the time you have all your outlines in, you don't need the stencil anymore, usually. And there are more advanced versions of that. But if you finish your outline, then you can go ahead and start using the liquid. It's easier to clean, and then it's a lot more comfortable for the client at that point.
You never want to leave a line undersaturated or incomplete. Now for the shading. I'm using a 13 curved mag from Bronc.
And so what he meant by that too is go back after you're done doing the outline and stare at the tattoo a bit, see if there's any inconsistencies. Try your best to clean up those lines and make them consistent. The client's gonna be happy, and you're gonna be happy with the result at the end of it.
And yes, the package does say RM, which usually is a round mag, but this is for sure a curved mag, as you can see. And I like to run 6.5 volts when shading. For whip shading, as you push away from yourself and pull out of the skin, gradually tilt the machine upwards. You can also cross hatch to achieve.
So he explained that he does his outlining somewhere at around 8 volts on his masked machine. And then for shading, he goes at around 6 volts. Higher volts, faster machine speed. So then the lines are the dots, because each individual prick of the skin is a dot on the skin. And that means that the lines and the dots will be closer together, gives you a more crisp line. With shading, you don't want such a hard hit, because the higher the speed, the harder the hit on the skin. And you want it to be a little bit softer, a little slower, so you have more control. And you cause less trauma to the skin. So that's why you would want it to be at a lower speed.
Achieve smoother blending. And just adjust your hand speed until you achieve the desired results. Here's the final result, and if you have any questions, leave them in the comments.
Yeah, a very good video. Definitely recommend checking out Emo Kingpin. I actually have another video of his to check out. here in a bit. Very well said, straight to the point. We can also elaborate deeper on each one of those, but I would definitely recommend. So this is where my idea of and my belief that some artists out there in the game think that no, you shouldn't go online and try to learn from somebody online, that they're not going to know what to do, what to say, or that it's not fair to people who are in the tattoo world. No, I think if as long as you're giving good, usable information, then why not? Why not learn a thing or two, and then people can practice obviously as much as you can on fake skin without messing up anybody's tattoos and that sort of thing. But I definitely recommend taking this approach if you don't have easy access or just not able to get an apprenticeship. All right. I got another video for us to check out. It's all right.
Number 1, wrap a pen or a marker with grip tape and
So this is Emo Kingpin again. He's talking about some different things you can do in the beginning when you're starting off to tattoo.
trace lines. Or grab a coloring book and trace the designs out of that. Number 2,
This is really good. So this is so you can practice your hand strength. And if you notice, he's pulling each line and very steady with the pull. You're going to get the best, cleanest line if you're pulling the line. Later on, with more practice, you can start pushing lines and start going horizontal in comparison to the tattoo. But for now, highly recommend that you learn exactly the way Emo Kingpin is pulling his lines and practicing on a line graph paper and or practicing on some drawings that you find, or if you're able to go get some drawings to try to trace out. During my apprenticeship, what they would have me do is wrap a pencil, put a pencil in an old tattoo machine, usually heavy so that you can feel the weight on the back of your hand, and grab some stencil paper, and we would go to the flash on the wall, and you would try to trace that out to strengthen your hand. And this is the same concept. I think the way that they taught me is a little bit more extreme, and that's just because it was about almost 12 years ago. This is a very straightforward way to try to strengthen your hand and try to strengthen your fingers and your wrist in that position for pulling lines.
practice drawing as much as possible. Number 3, learn how to make stencils by hand even if you own a stencil printer.
This one I can't stress enough. We have so much access to new technology in the tattoo world nowadays. It is a night and day difference from 10 years ago, and it can kind of be a cop-out in the beginning. You're missing out in valuable information, valuable practice when you don't try to stencil out each single drawing, each single tattoo before you start tattooing. This is going to help you with knowing your tattoo, knowing the design, making it readable for you because you've already, you have that muscle memory when you did the outline. And you start to value a whole lot more having a stencil machine or the stencil printer. I feel like this is kind of lost in the new generation of tattoo artists, so I love that he says this.
Number 4, practice on fake skin before you jump to human skin. Number 5, when lining, lock your wrist in your hand and pull from your elbow. Number 6, when you look at a tattoo design whole cloth, it can be...
Yes, definitely want to strengthen that muscle. Pulling your lines, not with your fingers or your wrist. You want to try to pull with your whole arm as much as you can. And later on down the line, this is how I do my lining. I do use my hands and fingers a bit more, but you want to strengthen that and stay strict with pulling your lines with your whole arm.
Number 6, when you look at a tattoo design whole cloth, it can be overwhelming. Go from point A to point B and focus on one line at a time. It'll definitely improve your confidence. Number 7, practice makes progress. Don't get frustrated.
Love that. Yeah, I'm gonna say this, and I'll die on this hill every single day of the week. Practice beats talent any day, no matter what. I don't care if you're an amazing black and gray artist, realism, photorealism, illustrative. It doesn't matter what kind of oil painter. If there's somebody who doesn't have that much talent initially that practices every single day, on tattoos, they're going to beat everybody out of the water every single time. So I love that he says this.
Just keep practicing. Number 8, take breaks. Taking time away can inspire and lead to breakthroughs. Also, burnout is real, so take care of your mental health. Number 9, you will progress organically.
Number 8, this is actually very important. Work-life balance is huge. Figuring out that, yes, you do need to practice as much as possible, but you can run into burnout. Once you actually start charging for tattoos, I would recommend trying to approach the career and the business not as trying to make money, because then it can lead you down that path. And I've seen plenty of artists get lost and start to only care about getting them in the door and out the door as fast as possible to make the money. And so taking some time away, pausing, can help you, just get your mind off of it. And I've noticed that every time that I pull away, maybe take a vacation, just even like a staycation, I feel a little bit more inspired and excited to come back into tattoos. So again, love that.
Number 9, you will progress organically. Don't stress, just keep practicing. Lastly, don't compare yourself to others, the haters, and be unapologetically yourself.
Yes, Emo Kingpin. I love that. Yeah, don't compare yourself to anybody else. Because even at, let's say, somebody like me who has up to 12 years under their belt, if I can compare myself to some of the greats, I'm barely starting to get some local recognition. But am I globally recognized? Hell no. I'm not going to let that stop me from trying to get better every single day with every single tattoo. That's not fair to yourself. The only comparison that I can recommend is who you are last year. Compare yourself to where you were last year. Right now, you are at the best that you have ever been, but you're going to be even better next year, right? So if you take that approach into every single tattoo, I can guarantee that you're going to do a whole lot better. All right, guys, I got another video for you. So far, Emo Kingpin, I was searching through these tutorials and these how-tos on TikTok, and I'm thoroughly impressed with the way he approaches, how he gives the information. And of course, I'm sure that you can get even more value if you were to do an apprenticeship with somebody like Emo Kingpin, yet he's still giving this information online. So if Emo Kingpin has any haters online that say that he's giving away information and that's not right in the tattoo industry, don't worry, man. I'm with you, because I've had that same thing happen to me, and I disagree with it full-heartedly. All right, man, let's check out this next video.
What's
up?
Let's
you
check
want
out
to be tattoo
artists? Don't know how to pick the right needle for your tattoos? Let me show you. Tattoo needles are no different than any other art tool, like pens or paintbrushes. Depending on the style of tattoo and the piece you're doing, that'll give you the idea of what needle to use.
This is an interesting concept, and I haven't heard this from anybody else other than if anybody knows Pooch or Pooch Arts. I did his seminar last year, and this is exactly what he explained, that you can consider each tattoo needle as a sort of like a paintbrush size, or he would call liners pencils and pens, and he would call round shaders sort of like markers and that sort of thing, or like a smaller tip brush. And then mags would be a larger brush, a whole larger brush. And I love that this guy's making this comparison, because I do agree with this comparison.
Let's start off with round liners. These are needles used for lining. The number at the front of the needle tells you how many needles are in the grouping. So there's 9 needles in this round liner grouping. Now to round shaders. These are used for shading. A 3 round shader means there's 3 needles in a round shader grouping. These are great for shading faces or small pieces. This is a 9 round mag. That means there's 9 needles in a round mag grouping. These are used for shading and give you a nice soft shade. Never use a round liner to shade. It traumatizes the skin and can make it scar up. For this, I used a 9 round liner to line the outside, a 3 round liner to put the details in the middle, and a 7 round mag to fill in the suits. Here you can see me doing that. There's another type of needle grouping called mags. A mag is pretty much the same as a round mag, except the edges of a mag are not rounded off. None of this will make sense until you practice on fake skin. TattooMachineEquipment.com has a lot more information on needles and would help you out a lot. If y'all have any more questions, make sure to leave them in the comments and I'll try to answer what I can.
All right, awesome. I actually love this video. So something like this, for anybody who has never tattooed before, you can get an idea of what each needle is for. If you're barely starting off, this is great. This is incredible. Because let's say you just got your tattoo kit in the mail and you're staring at all these needles. You're staring at like what goes for what. How do I even start? I definitely recommend checking out this video. Good information, really good information. Corbin Briggs 3.
What's up, guys? Today I'm going to be showing you some tips on how to tattoo your fake skin. My personal favorite brand is A Pound of Flesh. You can buy those flat sheets there, or these body parts, which are great for practice, but let's get right into tattooing. What you just saw there was me wiping and cleaning the surface with some alcohol, and now I'm going to apply some stencil lotion. Make sure there's plenty.
Okay, so I like practicing on fake skin in the beginning because it does give you an idea how the machine works and hand speed, hand movement, and all those different variables that come into play. But I will say this, it does not compare to actual skin. It is harder to tattoo Pound of Flesh, Real Skin. There's all these different brands out there. Most tattoo kits come with like sort of like the cheap knockoff practice skins, which are fine to start off and practice with, but I will say that they're not the same. So keep that in mind when you're practicing on fake skin.
On there so the stencil sticks on really, really well. Stencils on fake skin tend to come out really light, so make sure that you have enough stencil stuff there. You can see that I did not apply enough, so we want to go in and make sure that it's really wet and not tacky, which is different than what you would do on real skin, but make sure that there's enough.
See, that's really good that she points that out too. It's tricky putting on a stencil on the fake skin, and it's so much easier putting it on real skin. I think altogether it is just easier to set up for a tattoo on real skin. But again, this is for practice. It gives you an idea. I just want to let you know that if you're barely starting off doing practicing tattoos on fake skin, just know that there's going to be another layer of learning once you actually start tattooing real skin.
On there so the stencil comes out dark enough for you. I'm also going to go ahead and show you guys how Sharpie holds up on your fake skins as well. And I cannot stress this part enough, but hairspray your stencils before you start tattooing. It helps so much keep the stencil on. You can see here that it still kind of wipes off.
Oh, okay. I've actually never seen that or heard about putting hairspray on the practice skin. That might be something worth trying, worth giving a shot. The other way is letting it dry all the way. I haven't had any issues with that. The only tricky bit is once you let it dry all the way, it is stained. It's like a dye. So that dye, let's say if it's on real skin, it'll stay on there for 2-3 days without washing it, all that kind of stuff. It will not come off. So if you let it dry on the fake skin, it'll also stain it, and it gets tricky to clean once you're done tattooing, and then you'll be able to see it at the end product. So what I found that works is soaking the tattoo or the tattoo area in bleach. All right, let's see where we were at because I missed my spot. Let's see. All right.
The stencil on. You can see here that it still kind of wipes off a little bit, but without it, it would just completely go away just like that. Sharpie can either wipe away really easily or stain your fake skin, so that's something that you might have to mess around with yourself, but in my opinion, it tends to stain more than it does wipe away. Sometimes black ink can come out a little bit gray on your fake skin. I can show you a bit here. I had to go over the line.
Okay, so I've never cleaned Sharpie off of the fake skin, but I wonder, I'm pretty sure that if bleach can get rid of the dye, the stencil, then I'm pretty sure that it can get rid of the Sharpie. So, that might be something for Lex to check out.
A couple of times, and I'm leaving a little highlight to show you guys white ink. And do not forget to wear an apron when you tattoo with fake skin. It gets everywhere, and you can see the little bit of white there. It doesn't really show that well. I'm not sure why. And for those stubborn stencils that will not come off with soap, what I like to do is douse a paper towel in some bleach. Oh,
look, she knows about the bleach stuff. Hell yeah, that's awesome. Definitely, again, this is the best way to get rid of the stain once it's on there. Yeah, it's awesome. She knows this stuff.
And let it sit in some plastic wrap for about an hour or two, or overnight for best results. And voila.
Again, so this is like to speak on whether or not there is good information to listen to pay attention to online. She gave all that information. So yeah, I definitely recommend checking out her video if you're barely starting off. All right, let's see if there's one more.
Things I wish I knew when I started. Think about your approach to the tattoo. What size line work do you want to use? Will you be utilizing multiple line weights? Because in this example I'm doing American Traditional, I'm using a single liner. Always start from the bottom right hand corner.
I want to expand on line weight. I don't know if he's going to explain that. Line weight means the thickness of the line. So if you use a smaller liner, for example, a 3-liner, it's going to give you a smaller line weight. If you use something like an 18-round shader, which you can use to outline some really thick lines, then yeah, it's going to be a big line weight. So that's the difference if you want to understand line weight.
And work your way up. If you're left-handed, use your left hand and do the opposite. I like to break down the design into its simplest form. I focus on one line at a time. Before I even pull the line, I know where my beginning point is and where my ending point is. The stretch is one of the most important aspects as well. If not stretched properly, the needle will bounce off the skin rather than penetrate the skin.
Yes, you want the skin to be tight. So you want to pull that skin. And that's why certain areas are a little bit harder to tattoo, something like a neck or like maybe a glute. The skin is very soft, very elasticy, and it's harder to stretch it. Somewhere like a bicep or like a thigh or even the calf, the skin is very tight. You barely have to stretch the skin. If you have a hard time with getting some lines or some blacks into a tattoo, you might want to check to see if you're stretching the skin enough. What I like to recommend any apprentice that I'm working with is that they practice a 3-point stretch. It's going to be with your tattooing hand. You're going to use the side of your palm that's going to be touching the skin for leverage. And you're going to push down and pull towards you. And then with your other hand, you're going to use your index finger and your thumb and pull apart the skin. And so that way you have a 3-point stretch on the skin that'll give you nice taut skin to work on. So that way you can actually penetrate the skin versus letting the needle bounce off of it. And you're going to get very light lines, line weight, or a hard time saturating blacks in color. Or even getting smooth blends on black and gray shading.
Will leave you with inconsistent saturation throughout the line. And lastly, low quality supplies. If you're running a super cheap machine, battery, or power supply, it will run inconsistently. This can result in fluctuations in speed and might be the issue for your poor quality lines. The same goes for your needle cartridges and ink. So if you find you have the technique down for lining but are not getting the results you want, check that you're not using super cheap.
And so this is something to pay attention to, maybe 3 months to maybe 6 months or even a year into practicing tattoos, that if you know that you're doing well with your technique, but for some reason your lines are still inconsistent, I can guarantee you it's because of the starter machine that you're working with. And at that point, since you are practicing enough, it would be worth investing on a more expensive machine and or something that's like in the middle ground. And I could do another podcast with some suggestions of where to start off at, what's a middle ground, and then of course the high-end machines that I would recommend.
Supplies. And remember, line work is the entire foundation of a tattoo, and it will make or break the outcome of the piece.
Again, so this one's Emo King again, and I picked 3 of his videos because they're solid information. And of course, we can always expand more on each of the things that he says, but what he's explaining is fundamental technique, which is what you want to learn before you move forward and start doing more advanced stuff. So again, love this. Highly recommend checking out his videos. Let's see if we got one more. And I think that's the last one. So again, this is to kind of speak on whether or not you can find good information, good techniques and fundamentals online. I've actually tried my part to give information on YouTube, on my social medias, to try to teach and give that information as much as I can. And I've had backlash. I've had artists tell me things like that I'm setting the tattoo industry back, that I shouldn't be in business anymore. I've even had some people say they kick my doors in. And it's just unfortunate because there's so many people out there who are artistically driven, who start to lean towards tattoos and find it interesting. It's going to be an outlet for them to be artistic. And why try to bring that down? What, because you feel like it's going to eat into your business? There's millions of people. There's plenty to go around. And that's the beautiful thing about having, and the difference also between having a scarcity mindset and an abundant mindset. People who believe that there's more than enough people to go around will have more than enough to go around. And the people who think that you're eating or cutting into their business, well, that's exactly what they're experiencing. They're experiencing cuts in business, and they want to blame somebody else. Look, there's no way around it. That's also why I lean towards, yes, you should try to find information online as much as you can, while also trying to consider getting a solid apprenticeship and learning as much as you can the traditional way. Because there's no way around it. We have our phones. We have access to all these videos. There's plenty of content creators out there, good content creators giving solid information. So why not? And I actually find myself going online and benefiting from information online. So when I started coming up, it was videos like Nico's or artists, but there was an incredible black and gray going around for a good while that I learned from. Joshua Carlton, an amazing painterly style black and gray with opaques, one of the pioneers of opaque technique. His videos were amazing. His you had to buy from him. But again, so actually Joshua Carlton was another person that back in the early 2000s, maybe the 90s, he put out a how-to book on tattoos. And man, he experienced a lot of backlash. Eventually, that became sort of the beginning for a lot of tattoo artists from that generation moving into the early 2010s. And had he not had the guts to put together a how-to book, there's a possibility that some of the greats that came from that would not have learned and would not have had the ability to get to where they're at now. So this is kind of to speak on the fact that whether or not, is it a good idea to go online to find how-to information? Yeah. Now, take it with a grain of salt, because obviously you're not in front of the person. You can't dig a little deeper, ask more questions. And it does get a little bit harder to transfer what you learn from a video to tattooing on somebody versus having that person there over your shoulder explaining every step of the way and guiding you. So that's also why I recommend looking for a solid apprenticeship. And that might be a good topic to explore in another episode on what are some good steps you can take to try to find a solid apprenticeship. If there was any sort of value that you got from this video, please let me know down in the comments. Make sure to give it a like, and of course, hit the bell icon, right? And then I'm going to put all of the different videos that all of the tags for those artists in the description. Make sure to go give them a follow, check them out, and try to learn as much as you can. All right, you guys. Peace.